Hello and welcome to The Green Stream, a podcast brought to you by Sustainable Business Network Detroit, a network of partnerships between Southeast Michigan stakeholders, innovators, and changemakers. Each partner is on a mission to advance and amplify sustainable business practices, and we're here to learn from, share, and help activate a sustainable way forward for Greater Detroit. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and join the conversation on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky. And head over to our website, sbn-detroit.org. Now, let's listen in to our conversation with today's sustainability leaders.
All right, thank you all for being here today. We have a really special guest, Madeline Walker Miller, who's here joining us with NexTiles. But before we get into that, my name is Wafa Dinaro. I am the Executive Director of the New Economy Initiative. NEI is a special project of the Community Foundation whose sole purpose is to support and grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Southeast Michigan. So we are really here to support entrepreneurs, small businesses, and getting them the resources that they need to start, scale, and grow their businesses. Madeline, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your incredible company, NexTiles.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today. NexTiles is a Detroit-based textile recycling company. I actually started the business in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. After my graduate studies that focused on landfill waste and ocean plastics. And so my journey to this business model was really unique, but we help commercial organizations recycle their textiles. And we do this directly from manufacturing sites or apparel design facilities. So everything that we collect is pre-consumer. And we convert that waste to become building insulation feedstock, outerwear fill, punching bag fill. We create these blends that are suitable for a range of products. And so we're really excited about that. We've sort of navigated to the post-consumer space in 2025 and 2026, and we're starting to do take-back programs and really address volume. And yeah, the business is growing and things are going really well.
Yeah, and you are based here locally. Tell us a little bit about that. How big is your team? How it's incredibly impressive that you started during COVID and have been able to scale the way you have. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
So we're based here locally. Detroit is my hometown. My graduate studies were in Miami, but I came home to be with my family during the pandemic. And I'm from a family of entrepreneurs, so that was a really good opportunity for me to bounce ideas off of my parents and siblings and things like that. We were headquartered out of Focus Hope for several years, and we spent many years renting, but we've recently purchased a new processing facility. So we're in Highland Park, which is a city within a city that most of us here in Michigan are familiar with, and also has rich innovation roots. So it's exciting to be there. We're really close to the Model T site and all of the exciting things that have happened in Highland Park. And it's also sort of a thriving business corridor. There are several family businesses, and it's just been a really positive environment. I'm happy to have my business here at home.
That's amazing. So Detroit has a really long history of innovation and really being on the forefront of technology, especially with the automotive industries. At the New Economy Initiative, NEI, we've really focused on getting all of the resources to support businesses that want to become entrepreneurs. We launched the Michigan Small Business Helper, which is a website to be able to access all these resources. You've really had a unique approach to your business model, and Detroit has really been positioning itself as a hub for tech and sustainability innovation. What meaningful support for startups like yours in this space? What do they look like, and what are the gaps that we still need to address as a region?
Well, I have had a unique journey when it comes to my startup. A lot of people know that as soon as the world reopened after the pandemic, I started pitching and participating in startup accelerators and joining incubators and so on. But I'll say that meaningful support it goes beyond sort of the early stage grants and pitch competitions and things like that. And it looks like that long-term sort of patient capital paired with access to infrastructure and other resources. I had a really sort of dry spot where there wasn't any funding available and there was like no more pitching to do. Um, and that is probably the time where I was most frustrated when I was renting because it was kind of like, how do I scale this? I'm getting orders and I have team and things are really exciting, but I don't have access to real capital right now. I don't know what's next. And I'm scared to go the sort of fundraising route because I've never navigated it. And so for me, just having longer term support would have been a lot of help. I also think I needed more technical assistance. At some points where I had access to capital, there was a lot of match funding available, and it's difficult for a small business owner to um, leverage match funding, right? It's like if I had the money, then I wouldn't need the money. And so access to capital, long-term support, and flexible capital are, to me, essential ways to provide meaningful support to startups.
It's really great. How do you see collaboration among startups or established businesses and support like partner organizations playing into the future of Detroit's sustainable startup ecosystem?
So I'll say that I'm always excited to collaborate with other sustainable businesses. The textile recycling industry is pretty small and it's competitive, but I believe that no single organization can build a sustainable ecosystem alone. And I think startups bring an element of innovation to already established businesses. One of the things we've been working on in 2025 and 2026 is we're shredding the bulk of our material, but when it comes to our valuable materials like leather, hides, and canvas and cotton, how can we partner with creatives and existing businesses to be their feedstock and to fuel what they're working on? We're an old school kind of hard recycler. We're in the warehouse sorting and it's dusty. We don't really have an established retail arm. We've started to sell some scraps online, but what I'm really excited about in 2026 is partnering with people who already have small manufacturing operations. They already know how to sew, but they don't have access to capital to buy new materials. On one hand, we're of support to small businesses, but on the other hand, it's imperative that Michigan figures out how to use the materials that are already in the ecosystem to make new things. And so innovation and partnership look like a lot of different things right now, but we want to make small leather goods and watch bands and really lean into what innovation looks like from an apparel and accessory production standpoint here in Michigan.
So help me understand. So you get there are materials that are donated, or do you have to purchase them that are scrap materials from large organizations, I assume? They give you this material, you and your team sort through them, and then you shred them and turn them into insulation, is generally how it goes.
And I should have clarified this earlier on, but many people think we are a donation center, and we're not. We're a landfill competitor. So which is sometimes hard to break to people. We charge people to pick up the waste, and then we sell to people who can use the granulated feedstock. And the reason for that is textile recycling is very labor intensive. It's expensive. We do have to sort. We have to remove hardware. And sometimes we're stopped in our tracks when the materials are comprised of fiberglass shards or something that we just didn't expect. So it's not as easy as dumping in a landfill. It is expensive, but the cool part of it, as you explained, is figuring out, in addition to building insulation feedstock, what else we can make. And so last year we started to do punching bag fill, but we also started to sell fake snow, reusable fake snow to theme parks, and just do a lot of exciting things that we never expected and we can do at scale as opposed to like these little small pop-up projects. So those are the kinds of things that are innovative and help to stabilize the business.
So you briefly touched on access to capital. That was one of your barriers. And it's often cited as one of the biggest barriers to early stage companies. In your experience, what innovative funding models or partnerships have you seen that are emerging specifically in this space, in the sustainable focused entrepreneurial space?
Well, I think right now, my sort of funding approach is inspired by my academic journey. I think that sort of a blended capital model is what I've always been comfortable with because I'm accustomed to piecing things together. But right now, in the face of so many grant dollars not being available anymore, I think philanthropy is really stepping in. And when we combine that with private investment, these are the kinds of this is the kind of funding to me that's going to stabilize businesses. I think when you look at what's happening in Detroit, especially, philanthropy is really stepping in when it comes to startup initiatives and, public projects and parks and all sorts of things. And so in 2026, NexTiles is sort of using a blended capital model where we're really excited to lean on philanthropic organizations. And we're used to piecing funding together. That's what our journey has looked like, especially since we've never done a formal round of fundraising. But I think when we combine philanthropic funding with private investment, there's an opportunity for big wins. And in the face of so much grant funding disappearing here lately, I think in Detroit, especially, philanthropy is really stepping in to fill that gap. And sometimes they don't know exactly what we need. And so I'm excited for in 2026 for my team to draft proposals and invite philanthropic organizations to the table to share with them what we need. When you combine the dollars with healthy and exciting ideas, I think possibilities are endless, and there's not always a grant opportunity or a project that's already written up. Sometimes the startups, organizations, and entrepreneurs have to create the opportunities for themselves.
That's really great. So for startups and sustainability, we always want founders and entrepreneurs to make a profit. That's why we do this work. That's why people go into entrepreneurship. But in sustainability specifically, success isn't just about profitability. It's really about what is that environmental, what is the social impact? How do you think about tracking that impact for the community? Do you track it, and how do you message that information beyond just your profit and loss statement?
We track it. I'm always on us about getting better when it comes to tracking. Um, Most of our clients get really excited when we provide our avoided carbon report, which last year evolved to become a more general recycling report. When I started the business, we were tracking, number of pounds diverted from landfill, and then sort of what the associated avoided carbon looks like. For people who aren't on the sustainability team at their organizations, we added metrics like how many trees, this represents. But in 2025, we really did invest in our recycling report to include miles traveled and whatever method of transportation our clients use to get the material to us. We've tried to include almost everything in the scope of our recycling job in that report, and organizations get really excited about that. Now, it's separate from sort of our revenues and the bread and butter of the business. But what I'm also excited about in 2026 is to find out how to leverage that as another revenue stream. It's always been sort of an add-on and something to justify our services, but it's important information that businesses are potentially using to make money on their end. And so our recycling report again was a big investment last year. I'm happy to share it with you all. There are parts of it that I don't even understand, but we hired a consultant, frankly, who told us this is what companies want to know. It's cool that you're recycling their waste, but go a step beyond that and help them understand impact so that you can retain these clients long term. And that's something we're excited about. We started in order to have a bit more control over miles traveled and emissions, we have our own small fleet of trucks now. So it's a little bit easier for us to keep an eye on things, but that sounds awful to me. And I've been in a rabbit hole of EV fleets and things like that, which nobody wants to hear because, of course, it's expensive. But that is the transportation to me is, it's just it's like taking several steps back on the recycling journey when we're recycling for people all over the country. And so getting the waste to us is not, it doesn't look good and it doesn't make me happy. And I want to figure out how to electrify that if possible. But that's a big dream.
That's great. That's really so you're working with companies all over the country. It is not just in Michigan.
No, 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 no. Our biggest client last year was a aircraft seating manufacturer out of Connecticut. and which feels random, but there just aren't that many companies. There are a lot of cool textile recycling companies and companies dedicated to recovering textiles, but um, the our capacity, the amount of waste that we can accept and the range of textiles that we accept is pretty unique. And so a lot of times when people find us, they've never encountered a company like us, which isn't always fun for us. But yeah, we're doing pretty big jobs all over the country. I'm proud of us.
That's really great. And you really are like a textile recycling pioneer. And it
Thank
sounds
you.
like you're focused on changing material upcycling waste.
Mhm.
What strategies are you kind of pursuing or have you found that are the most effective in getting these companies to adopt sustainable practices? Or, is this a part of the hard part of the work that you do, finding these companies, or is this coming, are they coming organically to you?
The companies come organically, but securing the business doesn't necessarily come organically because landfill is so much cheaper and it's what most organizations have been doing forever. And so once we get past the hard part of convincing people to pay us, um, we've learned to really meet people where they are. So I talked earlier on the call about us starting to navigate the post-consumer space. Um, a lot of times people reach out and they want to recycle, they're doing a rebrand and they want to recycle their corporate uniforms, but they want their employees to bring their old uniforms back and they want to be able to recycle those too. And so we can't say, well, we'll take the overstock uniforms from the basement, but don't bring the old polo. Figure that out. And the same is true with donation centers. In the past, we've only accepted denim because we know that we can use that as feedstock for our building insulation. But we're saying, hey, we'll take everything else. And so it's really important to meet people where they are. We have the same experience with automotive organizations. They don't just want to send headliner scraps. And so we've pivoted to figure out how we can use foam because they want to be able to send their foam too. And so we're we're becoming a lot more flexible. I was terrified of having a major pest control issue in our facility and all sorts of things that come with recycling post-consumer waste. But from an upcycling standpoint, um, it's exciting to upcycle materials that have never been in anyone's home, but the true impact, in my opinion, is going to come from post-consumer. People are curious and sometimes desperate, when it comes to how to get rid of their old jeans and t-shirts and things like that. And so between starting to accept that and figure out how to connect with community and take garments that have been used, this is one of my first times saying it out loud, and starting to collect materials that aren't just immediately usable for us. We're learning to meet our customers where they are, and sometimes it's hard, but it's working. It's working for us.
Madeline, I want to go back to something you said early on about using some of the leather goods for watch bands and, post-consumer. Is your vision here to sell those to manufacturers, to sell them to like the Shinolas of the world, or to get a creative team and create these yourself and have some kind of branded line of products?
My vision is both. I would love for organizations, and I'm sure I don't know what everyone's working on, so I'm sure Shinola is amazing. I'm sure they've done some upcycling work, but my vision is definitely to provide. We get huge pieces of leather, and if any creatives are watching, please reach out because we donate too. But my vision is absolutely to provide feedstock to companies that are already doing the work. But I would absolutely love for us to have some NexTiles branded small leather goods. We actually partnered this past semester with students from Stamps, the College of Art and Design at the University of Michigan, and we've partnered with a lot of cohorts of students, and a lot of times we get really cool PowerPoints and things that we may use at some point, and then we're left writing a whole bunch of recommendation letters and hosting a tour, which I love. But this cohort was special. They created tangible small leather goods, instructional videos. I shared with them that I thought it would be really cool for us to have a kit that we ship out to customers. It has all of the required leather pieces and tools to make a card holder or a keychain or something like that. And they didn't just provide me with instructions, they made them, and they are so skilled, and I was so impressed. I was brought to tears during their final presentation because they gave us a final product. And to me, that represents the talent that exists in Michigan and the fact that it is possible for us to have a small manufacturing operation that grows to become a large one. When I think of people making things and being skilled and driving Michigan's talent, I think of Isaac, the Industrial Sewing and Innovation Center, and I think of my first time at the empowerment plan, watching people that look like us and that represent Michigan actually making things. I don't know how to make anything at all, so that excites me, and it's something I would love to have at NexTiles. Our new processing facility is a former film studio, and so we have a lot of space, and it just it just screams Michigan and Detroit and Highland Park and has so much culture and personality. And so I would love for us to have, and I've been talking to designers here about what it looks like to even just buy a few pieces of industrial sewing equipment and get started. Sometimes the hardest part is getting started, but I would love to do that.
That's really great. I'm really excited to be able to purchase some of these leather good products, especially like a little handbag or whatever else you envision this being. So on a more practical note, the folks that are watching today, some of them have entrepreneurial journeys ahead of them. A lot of them don't. Can you just give me some practical steps that you recommend for anybody who's watching this to contribute to sustainable practices or help really make a difference in moving us towards a more impactful society?
hmm Well, I think the good news for us is that sustainability is really trendy right now. And there are so many programs and there's so much information out here. I spoke to a group of students the other day and I told them to start where they are, but also to, if they have interest in some sort of sustainable technology or idea, to the best of their ability, go see it in person. I think that I could have gotten, I'm pretty young, but I think I could have gotten started a bit earlier and been a lot more excited about what I'm doing if I had gone to a textile recycling facility sooner or had exposure to upcycled products earlier. And so I always recommend that students go see what they like in person, any sustainable technology, any new clean energy technology, whatever it is, go see it and touch it because that makes it more real. It helps you understand it better. And that's, to me, a starting point at getting involved. And the other piece of advice I would give is I talked a lot about the importance of long-term support and capital, but I will always appreciate my participation in early startup incubators and accelerators. And so leaning into TechTown and other Michigan-based organizations that have startup resources, it was just invaluable to me. That experience really did kind of catapult me into the world of entrepreneurship. Michigan has such a rich history when it comes to entrepreneurship and innovation. But part of that to me is because we support each other, but we're also real with each other. And having those face-to-face conversations and connections with people, especially at Tech Town, who early on told me, I don't know if this part of the business is practical. And I don't know if, sometimes you need people to bounce things off of and to um, validate your idea or give you harsh advice, constructive criticism. And so going to those spaces and talking to and touching other entrepreneurs who are doing the work is another thing that I would absolutely recommend for people who want to get started.
That's really great. And just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, I'm gonna call out a website. If anybody is interested in entrepreneurship or connecting with those resources, it's called Michigan Small Business Helper. It's got all of those resources, including TechTown, like you listed. It's got a bunch of CDFIs and capital providers, and it's got a lot of resource guides that can help you through the process and help you navigate your entrepreneurial journey.
Mhm.
This was such a great conversation. Madeline, we're kind of coming to the end, and I wish we could continue this conversation. Um, I really enjoyed talking to you. I am going to continue to watch your journey and continue to follow as you move into the consumer goods space. This is incredibly exciting. This is really great work that you're doing. We appreciate the work that you're doing. We appreciate that you are changing the upcycling game and really getting these materials that would otherwise fill the landfills and getting them into active use into construction sites and other materials. This is really fantastic. Um,
Well, You. Thank you for
And
having me. I enjoyed this and I'm excited to keep doing the work. Thank you for those compliments. But I'm especially thankful to my team and all of the organizations that are also willing to do the work and to help save our planet, starting with Michigan.
yeah, and anything else you'd like to add? You're incredibly motivating, and I'm sure there's a lot of young people that also have dreams. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Well, I've already given sort of the advice to start where you are, but for young people especially, I always like to sort of reiterate that I'm real and I'm accessible. And so I'm on social media platforms and things like that. We do a lot of tours. One of our goals for 2026 is to touch community, to open our doors, to provide materials, and to transfer our knowledge of the textile industry, especially to youth here in Michigan and in Detroit. And so I'm available. I'm happy to get involved. And I just want people to know that I'm here.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your time and more importantly, your insights, um, and talking about sustainability for Southeast Michigan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Sustainable Business Network Detroit, the Green Stream podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow us on SBN-Detroit.org and stay tuned for more conversations on sustainability from inside and around the city.